Truckers, Part 31. "I pull this string," said Angelo, indicating the thread over his shoulder and the way it disappeared down into the depths of the cab, "and the leader of the steering wheel, left pulling team, will know I want to turn left, because it's tied to his arm. And this other one goes to the right pulling team, so we won't need so many signals and Dorcas can concentrate on the gears and things. And the brakes. After all," he added, "we can't always rely on a wall to run into when we want to stop." "What about lights?" said Masculine. Anglo beamed. "Signal for the lights," he said to the gnome with the flags. "What we did was, we tied threads to switches." There was a click. A big metal arm moved across the windscreen, clearing away the raindrops. They watched it for a while. "Doesn't really illuminate much, does it?" said Grimmer. "Wrong switch," muttered Angelo. "Signal to leave the wipers on, but put on the lights." There was some muffled argument below them, and then another click. Instantly, the cab was filled with the dull, throbbing sound of a human voice. "It's all right," said Angelo. "It's only the radio. But it's not the lights. Tell Dorcas." "I know what a radio is," said Gerda. "You don't have to tell me what a radio is." "What is it then?" said Masculine, who didn't know. $29.95 batteries extra," said Gerda, "with AM, FM and auto reverse cassette. Bargain offer not to be repeated." "AM and FM?" said Masculine. "Yes." The radio voice droned on. "Biggest fire in town's history, with the firemen coming in from as far afield as Newtown. Meanwhile, police are searching for one of the store's lorries, last seen leaving the building just before—" The lights, called Angelo. "Third switch along." There was a few seconds' pause, and then the alley in front of the lorry was bathed in white light. "There should be two, but one got broken when we left the store," said Angelo. "Well then, are we ready?" "Anyone seeing the vehicle should contact Grimthorpe Police on—" "And turn off the radio," said Angelo. "That gets on my nerves." "I wish we could understand it," said Masculine. "I'm sure they're fairly intelligent. If only we could understand it. But they talk too slow." He nodded at Angelo. "OK," he said. "Let's go." It seemed much better this time. The lorry scraped along the wall for a moment, then came free and moved gently down the narrow alley towards the lights at the far end. As the lorry came out from between the dark walls, Angelo called for the brakes, and it stopped with only a mild jolt. "Which way?" he said. Masculine looked blank. Gerda fumbled through the pages of the diary. "It depends on which way we're going," he said. "Look for signs saying Africa or Canada, perhaps." "There's a sign," said Angelo, peering through the rain. "It says Town Centre, and then there's an arrow and it says—" He squinted. "One-way street," murmured Grimmer. "Town Centre doesn't sound like a good idea," said Masculine. "Can't seem to find it on the map either," said Gerda. "We'll go the other way then," said Angelo, hauling on the thread. "And I'm not sure about one-way street," said Masculine. "I think you should only go along it one way." "Well, we are," said Angelo, smugly. "We're going this way." The lorry rolled out of the side road and bumped neatly onto the pavement. "Let's have second gear," said Angelo, "and a bit more go faster pedal." A car swerved slowly out of the lorry's way, its horn sounding, to gnome ears, like the lost wail of a foghorn. "Shouldn't be allowed on the road, drivers like that," said Angelo. There was a thump, and the remains of a street light bounced away. "And they put all this stupid stuff in the roadway too," he added. "Remember to show consideration for other road users," said Masculine severely. "Well, I am, aren't I? I'm not running into them, am I?" said Angelo. "What was that thump?" "Some bushes, I think," said Masculine. "See what I mean? Why do they put things like that in the road?" "I think the road is more sort of over to your right," said Gerda. "And it moves around as well," said Angelo sullenly, pulling the right-hand string tight slightly. It was nearly midnight, and Grimthorpe was not a busy town after dark. Therefore, there was no one rushing to run into the lorry as it slid out of Alderman Surley Way and roared up John Lennon Avenue, a huge and rather battered shape under the yellow sodium glare. The rain had stopped, but there were wisps of mist coiling across the road. It was almost peaceful. "Right, third gear," said Angelo, "and a bit faster. Now, what's that sign coming up?" Grimmer and Maskelyne craned to see. "Looks like road works ahead," said Grimmer in a puzzled voice. "Sounds good," said Angelo. "Let's have some more fast down there." "Yes, but," said Maskelyne, "why say it? I mean, you could understand road doesn't work ahead. Why tell us it works?" "Maybe it means they're stopping putting curbs and lights and bushes in it," said Angelo. "Maybe—" Maskelyne leaned over the edge of the platform. Stop!" he shouted. "Lots and lots of stop!" The brake pedal team looked up in astonishment, but obeyed. There was a scream from the tyres, yells from the gnomes who were thrown forward, and then a lot of crunching and clanging from the front of the lorry as it skidded through an assortment of barriers and cones. "They had better," said Angelo, when it had finally stopped, "be a very good reason for that." "I've hurt my knee," said Gerda. "There isn't any more road," said Maskelyne simply. "Of course there's road," snapped Angelo. "We're on it, aren't we?" "Look down, that's all. Just look down," said Maskelyne. Angelo peered down at the road ahead. The most interesting thing about it was that it wasn't there. Then he turned to the signaller. "Can we please have just a wee bit of backwards?" he said quietly. "A smidgen," said the signaller. "And none of your cheek," said Angelo. Grimmer was also staring at the hole in the road. It was big. It was deep. A few pipes lurked in the depths. "Sometimes," she said, "I think humans don't really understand anything about the proper use of language." She leafed through the code as the lorry was reversed carefully away from the pit and, after crushing various things, driven onto the grass until the road was clear. "It's time we were sensible about this," she said. "We can't assume anything means what it says. So go slow." "I was driving perfectly safely," said Angelo sulkily. "It's not my fault if things are all wrong." "So go slow then," reinforced Grimmer. They stared in silence at the rolling road. Another sign loomed up. "Roundabout," said Angelo, "and a picture of a circle. Well, any ideas?" Grimmer leafed desperately through the code. "I saw a picture of a roundabout once," said Gerda, "if it's any help. It was in the We Go to the Fair book. It's a big shiny thing with lots of gold and horses on it." "I'm sure that's not it," murmured Grimmer, turning the pages hurriedly. "I'm sure there's something in here about—" "Gold, eh?" said Angelo. "Should be easy to spot, anyway. I think," he glared at Grimmer, "that we can have a little third gear." "Right you are, Mr. Angelo, sir," said the signaller. "Can't see any golden horses," said Maskelyne. "You know, I'm not entirely certain—" "And there should be cheerful music," said Gerda, pleased to be making a contribution. "Can't hear any Maskelyne began. There was a long, drawn-out blast of a car horn. The road stopped and was replaced by a mound covered in bushes. The lorry roared up it, all wheels leaving the ground for a moment, then thumped down on the other side of the roundabout and continued a little way, rocking from side to side on the opposite road. It rolled to a halt. There was silence in the cab again. Then someone groaned. Maskelyne crawled to the edge of the platform and looked down into the frightened face of Gerda, who was hanging onto the edge. "What happened?" he groaned. Maskelyne hauled him back up to safety and dusted him off. "I think," he said, "that although the signs mean what they say isn't what they mean." Grimmer pulled herself out from underneath the code. Angelo untangled himself from the lengths of string and found himself looking into her furious scowl. "You," she said, "are a total idiot. And speed mad. Why don't you listen?" "You can't speak to me like that," said Angelo, cowering back. "Gerda, tell her she can't call me names like that." Gerda sat trembling on the edge of the platform. "As far as I am concerned right now," he said, "she can call you what she likes. Go to it, young woman." Angelo glowered. "Hang on. You were the one who went on about golden horses. I didn't see any golden horses. Did anyone see any golden horses? He confused me, going on about golden horses. Gerda waved a finger at him. Don't you me, he began. And don't you, young woman, me in that tone of voice, screamed Grimmer. Dorcas's voice came up from the depths. I don't want to interrupt anything, it said. But if this happens one more time, there are people down here who will be getting very angry. Is that understood? Just a minor steering problem, Masklin called down cheerfully. He turned back to the others. Now you all look here, he said quietly. This arguing has got to stop. Every time we hit a problem, we start bickering. It's not sensible. Anglo sniffed. We were doing perfectly all right until he... Shut up! They stared at Masklin. He was shaking with anger. I've had just about enough of all of you, he shouted. You make me ashamed. We were doing so well. I haven't spent ages trying to make all this happen just for a steering committee to ruin it all. Now you can all get up and get this thing moving again. There's a whole truckload of gnomes back there. They're depending on you. Understand? They looked at one another. They stood up sheepishly. Angelo pulled the steering strings. The signaller untangled his flags. Said Angelo quietly. I think a little bit of first gear might be in order here if it's all the same to everybody else. Good idea. Go ahead, said Gerda. But carefully, said Grimmer. Thank you, said Angelo politely. Is that all right by you, Masklin? He added. Yes, fine. Go, said Masklin. At least there were no more buildings. The lorry purred along the lonely road, its one remaining headlight making a white glow in the mist. 1 or 2 vehicles passed them on the other side of the road. Masklin knew that soon they should be looking for somewhere to stop. It would have to be somewhere sheltered, away from humans, but not too far away, because he was pretty certain there were still plenty of things gnomes were going to need. Perhaps they were going north, but if they were, it would be sheer luck. It was at that moment, tired, angry, with his mind not entirely on what was in front of him, that he saw prices slashed.